I'd like to just encourage everybody to do is just not be afraid of new technology. There are so many great solutions in the market today. I don't know, these technology companies have done a fantastic job of creating wonderful software and outcomes for different vertical markets that really can have a massive shift in sustainability, reduction in carbon footprint, and improve occupant safety and also improve the bottom line for these assets that people manage in buildings. But I think we see a lot of people that are very hesitant to jump into new technology, and I think a lot of that has to do with just being unfamiliar with what is a cloud-based IoT smart infrastructure platform look like? What is it going to do? How much is it going to cost? Will it actually save me money?
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Engatica interview series. I'm your host Palak and we are thrilled to have you join us today. And today we have David Sciarrino, Smart Building and IoT Expert, Consultant and Advisor, President of Source IoT on the show. Welcome, David.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come be a part of our community, learn, share, and grow with us. So, just to start off with the interview, the first question I'd like to ask you is what is this concept of data fabric in IoT that the world needs to know about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, that data fabric concept that we hear about, I like to call it more of an independent data layer. And the reason it's really important is because we've developed so many different silos of technologies within smart infrastructure, specifically in buildings. And those silos really have a hard time communicating between themselves. So the concept of that data fabric or that independent data layer creates the ability for interoperability between these siloed systems. So as an example, an independent data layer data fabric can create a communication channel between two disparate systems, such as a lighting control system and a fire alarm system, or even an HVAC system. So they can now understand what's going on in the building, and you can have a more intelligent approach to how that building operates to improve safety and energy efficiency for the occupants.
Amazing. The second question I'd like to ask you is how difficult is it to bring the convergence of IT and operational technologies? What are the biggest hurdles?
So I think we've heard a lot about IT and OT convergence. We've heard about that for probably decades now. I think we've made a lot of progress taking things that are hard building assets like chillers, HVAC systems, security systems, and so on, and bringing those into the IT world. That's always been a challenge, just because you're taking something from one technology and trying to blend it into another. But what I really see as the future is more of an IoT and OT convergence. I think we've done a good job with the IT and OT convergence. So many things in our world now are online. We now see is a lot of IoT devices being introduced, and these are new OT technologies that may be completely independent from the original building design, such as indoor air quality sensors or space utilization sensors. I think the real challenge now is to figure out, how do we take these new systems that are already cloud connected, they're already into an IT system, but how do we converge those to the existing OT systems in a building that have been there for 30 years? And I think some of the biggest hurdles in doing that is really just a technology hurdle. You have a 20-year-old building automation system that's really not designed to talk to the cloud, and you have a brand new IoT system that's already got data in the cloud. It's got an API, but there's really not a pathway for those two systems to communicate and collaborate. So a technology hurdle is usually overcome by more technology. So things like that independent data layer or data fabric can be introduced to help bring those types of systems together. But there's a lot of technology that is just not designed to be open. So, getting manufacturers to be more flexible with how their systems are being used, and to really accept the fact that they can't solve all the problems for their customer. They need to be open and flexible enough to allow others to come in, use their API, and create some additional value by opening up those data streams that were historically just very locked down.
Amazing. Those were some great insights. I'm sure our audience will love those insights. Moving on, how will IoT as a technology contribute to the high-performing financial asset?
I think that's a great question. I think for years, people have been slowly realizing that the technology in buildings really does contribute directly to the profitability of a building. And a building is really just a financial asset. And if you talk to property managers, their biggest concern is maintaining profitability for that asset for the owners of that building. And technology plays a very big role in being able to achieve that. And I think in the past, there's been a view of operational costs in a building as a drain to profitability. But as technology has really become more transparent in that its impact to bottom line profitability is easily now measured and proven, the adoption of these technologies is really accelerating. So we're seeing people spend money on a reoccurring operational cost that 10 years ago they wouldn't look at it because all they saw was more money going out the door. They now realize that investing in that kind of technology, and it could be people counting, it could be indoor air quality, it could be advanced lighting controls, those will have a direct and measurable impact to the bottom line for that asset, for that building. And as we start seeing new buildings come out of the ground, I think the design of these buildings is starting to shift more to ensuring that this building can actually generate revenue. So things that weren't given two thoughts 10 years ago, like digital signage in a building, that's now a very big piece of revenue generation for a building, because it's not only used for informing residents or occupants of current events, but it could be used for safety and security. It could be used for mass notification in the event of an emergency, but they can also generate revenue with ads and integrate that to local vendors or stores in the vicinity and partner with them to generate even additional revenue. So I think those are things that really have been available for a long time, but people are just now starting to discover that the investment in technology really has a great return on investment, but you have to design that in at the beginning, because it's something that tends to be very difficult to retrofit in after the fact.
Amazing. How would you define intelligent infrastructure? How should we go about building it?
Great question. So intelligent infrastructure, besides being hard to say, is a very broad term. When you look at the infrastructure in a place like North America, we're talking about not just buildings, we're talking about cities, we're talking about the grid, we're talking about communities and cities. That entire infrastructure, in order to really be intelligent, has to have some sort of communication, some sort of interface to the planet, right? So where we struggle today is really getting individual buildings to start communicating effectively, even between the systems that they have. So it really, to build intelligent infrastructure, I think the prerequisite there is you need to have some sort of standard at the building level where data can be pushed out of a building and it can be interpreted by other buildings and by other systems to have a really good understanding of what is happening with the maybe electrical consumption of this building, what is the air quality of that building, different parameters that can help make decisions on the macro level rather than just in a single building. I think we have a long way to go to get there, and there are a lot of smart city applications that integrate certain things like that, but it's a really big challenge because these buildings in a city are all designed differently. They have different systems. They were designed at different times. Very difficult to take something like that and treat it as one big system. So we have a lot of work to do there, and I think the adoption of standards will really help start driving the ability for us to do more in that space.
Amazing. These are some great points you're making here. Again, based on your experience, can we converge IoT with AI, and what could be the possible applications of it?
We hear a lot about AI. I think AI from a definition standpoint, if we look at really what do we consider artificial intelligence, besides being a popular term, to me, artificial intelligence really is, it's a way to take human interaction and move that into an automated decision-making platform. So that means, emotional decisions. That means not only decisions made based off of data, but made based off of feeling and emotion and experiences. So I think from an artificial intelligence standpoint, we have a long way to go. But if you look at a subset of artificial intelligence being machine learning, I think we've done quite a bit with machine learning. And there's a lot of artificial intelligence applications that are really more machine learning than anything else. And they could just be a series of yes or no or true false questions that it's answering over and over and over until it gets good enough at being able to predict what those answers are going to be before somebody needs to ask them. So with the emergence of IoT, we're starting to see that these IoT systems generate a ridiculous amount of data. And that data is only useful if you do something with it. So that's where that introduction to machine learning has really become powerful. And you're now able to make some decisions that take the workload off of the building managers and the system operators, that they can now rely on a system to make decisions about how that building operates. And then they can receive data on the back end that really indicates that the choices that were made by that machine learning algorithm were successful. And if they're not, then something can be done to make some changes to ensure that they are in the future. So when you talk about artificial intelligence, taking that role, you're looking at, not only machine learning, but now you have to really understand, how do the people feel about working in this space? Are there safety concerns based off of certain things that may invoke an emotional reaction to somebody that needs to be addressed? You get into that level of detail and data, it becomes much more advanced, and we're not there yet. Not to say in the future that we won't be, but I think it all starts with machine learning. It starts with gathering a very, very large amount of data and keeping that data very accessible to multiple systems. Machine learning is great. It learns off of experiences. And the more experiences that we can provide historically, the more we can map that and understand that and feed that into something like an artificial intelligence platform that can start interpreting things in a higher level than we see today with machine learning.
Are there any other sound bites you'd like to leave with our audience?
I think the one thing I'd like to just encourage everybody to do is just not be afraid of new technology. There are so many great solutions in the market today. These technology companies have done a fantastic job of creating wonderful software and outcomes for different vertical markets that really can have a massive shift in sustainability, reduction in carbon footprint, and improve occupant safety and also improve the bottom line for these assets that people manage in buildings. But I think we see a lot of people that are very hesitant to jump into new technology, and I think a lot of that has to do with just being unfamiliar with what does a cloud-based IoT smart infrastructure platform look like? What is it going to do? How much is it going to cost? Will it actually save me money? So I think these technology companies have done a great job at developing different applications that will work very, very well in multiple vertical markets across a very wide geography. I think what they haven't done great is really help the building owners understand, how do we buy a system like this? Because if you're a CFO of a healthcare organization and your job is to maintain compliance and profitability within that organization, and there's an IoT application that can help you do that, a CFO typically is not going to have the technical background to go out and be able to buy a system like that and understand that it's a good investment. So there's a lot of work that we need to do as a community to really help people in these decision-making C-suite level offices understand how these systems impact them, and how does it impact their business? So that's a lot of what I spend my time on, is helping to craft that message so it's really easily digested by those that are spending that money, that need the technology, but they don't understand how to buy it. So, my message to everybody is take that leap, go jump in to the deep end, get your feet wet, understand that there's a lot of technologies out there, and start vetting them. Start taking a hard look at them. You'll be very pleasantly surprised, when you actually make that investment to see how that results. And if you don't do it now, it's going to be much harder to implement, 10 years from now when you're, trying to catch up to everybody else. So don't be afraid, get out there and start pushing buttons.
Those are some amazing, amazing insights. I totally agree with you. I think change is very scary, but I think it's our duty to embrace it at the end of the day. So same with technology, embracing new technologies is always going to be scary, but it's always going to help out. It's always going to help us in the future. So those are some amazing insights. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us and sharing such informative ideas and thoughts with us. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to access exclusive content from thought leaders and around the globe. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you with new experts soon.